How's it going, YouTube? The one MFP here. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today I'm reacting to some more 21 Pilots. The last 21 Pilots reaction I did, it was my first time listening to a full 21 Pilots album. Front to back, every single song on the album had my interest. There wasn't a moment in there where my thoughts just went away onto other things. And that says a lot about the album as well as the band. They put together a spectacular set of songs on Blurryface. I'm interested to see if Vessel's more of the same. I've been reading your comments, interacting with you guys in the past 21 Pilots reaction videos, the Blurryface reaction included, and Vessel seems to be the album a lot of you like the most. So this should be a good one. And with the Blurryface album, I did mention that there were 2 songs off of that album that I knew already. Stressed Out being one of them, of course, and the other one being Heavy Dirty Soul. With this album, I think I only know one, and that would be Car Radio. And that's a fantastic song, so if Car Radio is representative of the quality of the music on Vessel, this should be a very good album. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. My name is Matt. I post reaction videos on this channel quite frequently. I normally say every single day, but as of late, hasn't been every single day. I hope to get back to that type of frequency. But mainly my aim is to put out quality reaction videos for you guys. So if you enjoy that type of content and you like this video, please take the time to check out some of my other reaction videos. And if you enjoyed those, please subscribe. I always appreciate the support. Now let's get right into this album reaction. The cover art for the album, we have Josh and Tyler. Either these guys are like Benjamin Button and they get younger with time, or this is future them. Tyler is sporting the shaved head look, whereas Josh is looking healthy as ever. Those biology classes with Will Smith in the Ukraine definitely seem to have paid off for him. But all jokes aside, Vessel, that's the title of the album. I'm thinking the title of Vessel has to do with the body. So the vessel is the body, whereas your soul, your spirit, that's the essence to the vessel. But let's see what the album has in store. The first song off of the album is Ode to Sleep. And an ode is essentially a poem that's written to praise someone or something. So with a title like Ode to Sleep, I'd imagine that Tyler's gonna be talking about how great or important sleep is. They've definitely piqued my interest with what they've chosen as the first song off of this album. If you've seen any of my prior album reactions on this channel, you know the type of importance I accord to the first song off of an album. It's the song that really sets the tone for the rest of the album. Some people use the first song as simply an intro, whereas the second song really sets the tone, but either way, that first song is going to be really important. Nice intro to the song here.
I wake up finding Andy, but then by the time I find it handy to rip my heart apart and start planning my crash landing on go like an old man's here receiving. I'm bleeding,
Old man.
He's repeatedly asking why it's had to be like this. Is this living free? I don't want to be
it's a reference to the album cover.
Take this weapon for the darkness. Some see a pen, I see a harpoon. Not taking prisoners tonight. Why am I not scared in the morning? I don't hear those voices calling. I must have kicked them out. Heard demons yelling. Those crazy words they were spelling. They told me I was gone. To let me go. To let me know you're about. It's significant. Forgotten and faking the truth, they ain't waiting, closing disappear. The start of the day when we put on our face, a mess up portrays that we don't need grace on the evil within that is bigger than us, but we open our eyes, we're told that we must on the trees of the rums and the culture to bleed. Desperately yelling, there's something we need. Storms metaphorically on the heart, and that's denial number 4.
Denial number 4.
I'll stay away. Why am I not scared in the morning? I don't hear those voices calling. I must have picked them out. I must have kicked them out.
Alright, so there we have it, Ode to Sleep. After listening to the song, it seems like he's talking about the progression of a day. In the beginning, he says, I wake up fine and dandy, but then by the time I find it handy to rip my heart apart and start planning my crash landing, I go up, up, up to the ceiling, then I feel my soul start leaving. So at first, that simply sounds like Tyler talking about the fact that when you wake up, you tend to wake up with more of a clear conscience. And then later in the verse, he's saying, I'm pleading, please, oh please, on my knees, repeatedly asking why it's gotta be like this. Is this living free? And he ends the verse with, take this weapon, forged in darkness, some see a pen, I see a harpoon. So with lines like that, you know, starting off with waking up with a clear conscience, and then as a day progresses, you start thinking a little more, you start regretting your own freedom. It seems like he's referring to the fact that all the choices he has to make, all this responsibility he has actually has him feeling uncomfortable. He's saying, I don't want to be the one who has the sun's blood on my hands. I'll tell the moon, take this weapon, forged in darkness. Some see a pen, I see a harpoon. So at this point, it seems like he's talking about his writing. Now, as I've alluded to earlier in this video, I've reacted to Blurryface. It's the only full 21 Pilots album I have heard. Besides that, I've heard Jumpsuit, Nico and the Niners, and Levitate. And I've heard Heathens and Car Radio. Based on what I've heard from those songs, Tyler really makes himself vulnerable with his songwriting. These lyrics are really like a journey through Tyler's mind. So with a line like, take this weapon forged in darkness, some see a pen, I see a harpoon, I see that as what he's writing is coming from a place of darkness. That's the substance behind the writing. So when he goes to write these lyrics, he's putting himself through a lot. And then this pre-chorus comes up. I'll stay awake because the dark's not taking prisoners tonight. Why am I not scared in the morning? I don't hear those voices calling. I must have kicked them out. I swear I heard demons yelling those crazy words they were spelling. They told me I was gone. They told me I was gone. So again, I see this as this progression of a day. You know, you wake up with a clear conscience, but towards the end, when you're right about to go to sleep, it seems like you have all these thoughts that come to you. You start questioning a lot of things. What you're questioning really depends on what type of things you're going through at the time. But these are questions that you normally wouldn't think about throughout the day. And the reason is usually just because when you're about to fall asleep, your mind is less active. And there's this saying that the idle mind is the devil's playground. And that's really what I'm getting out of this song at this point. In the morning or whenever it is you wake up, there is this moment of serenity. Then as the day progresses, you know, you have the general stresses of life. And then when everything stops, you tend to just get rear-ended by all of those thoughts. Those questions that didn't come to you at the moment, they're gonna meet you at that finish line, with the finish line being the end of the day. And then another important part of the song is when he talks about the start of the day. Once again, the start of the day when we put on our face a mask that portrays that we don't need grace on the eve of a day that is bigger than us. But we open our eyes because we're told that we must. But the beginning of that section, I'm seeing a mask that portrays that we don't need grace. So he's saying that we wake up really confident, and that's what he's attributing to this moment of serenity on the eve of a day that's bigger than us. So there's a lot that life has in store for us, and a lot of us are just not prepared for whatever that is. But we put on a brave face because we're told that we need to. And in doing so, we act like we don't need help, but then once things get hard, that's when we ask for help. And then in the outro, we have, I will set my soul on fire, what have I become? I'm sorry. At this point, it really seems like we have this accumulation of thoughts that really caught up to Tyler. He's feeling very regretful about it all, which is why he's asking for forgiveness. And it just seems like we come full circle here. You have the beginning of the day where you tell yourself it's a new day, you have this confidence to you, then as the day progresses, things get harder, and then towards the end of the day, everything just stops and all these thoughts come to you. That's where he's at the end of this song. With the title like Ode to Sleep, it seems like that sleep cycle is really what determines the course of your day. It's the beginning and the end to this cycle. So that's what I think of Ode to Sleep. Let's get right into song number 2, Holding On to You.
I'm taking over my body, back in control of my shoddy. I bet a lot of me was lost, T's and crossing eyes and dotted. Not anymore, flesh out the door, swat. I must have forgotten, you can't trust me. I'm going to moment, cause we show before you know what I'm lost to see. I never let right and think about it, and the story unfolds. You should take my life, you should take my soul. Now on the mountain range of my left side brain, you are surrounding. still looks really nice, right? You think twice about your life, it probably happens at night, right? Fight it, take the pain, ignite it, tie a noose around your mind.
Okay.
Breathe, find it, tie it to a tree, tell it you belong to me. This ain't a noose, this is a leash, and I am doomed for you, you must obey me. Surroundings.
This chorus is really nice.
On the mountain range of my left side brain, you are surrounding.
Wow. This is really beautiful. Beautiful build up with the drums there in the background. Oh. Yeah, that really felt emotional. The first thing that stuck out to me in this song was the direct reference to Ode to Sleep, and that comes in the second verse. Remember the moment you know exactly where you're going, because the next moment, before you know it, time is slowing and it's frozen still, and the windowsill looks really nice, right? You think twice about your life, it probably happens at night, right? Fight it, take the pain, ignite it, tie a noose around your mind. Loose enough to breathe fine, and tie it to a tree and tell it you belong to me. This ain't a noose, this is a leash, and I have news for you, you must obey me. So I saw this as... I didn't realize that was the whole second verse. It really stuck out to me, and I don't know if I caught onto it from the beginning, but yeah, he's really talking about the same content he was talking about in Ode to Sleep in the second verse here. Remember the moment you know exactly where you're going. Now this is a bit broad. You could see that as the beginning of the day when you lay out your plans, but it could go further than that. It could be an actual moment. But then because the next moment before you know it, time is slowing and is frozen still, this seems to be towards the end of the day. You know, everything kind of goes fast throughout the day as you're active. Once you slow down, that's when you start thinking twice about the night. That's when he's saying it probably happens at night, right? Ignite it, tie a noose around your mind. So now this is where it starts to be a real direct response to Ode to Sleep. In Ode to Sleep, I really feel like he was having trouble dealing with all of the thoughts that were coming to his mind at night. And that's why he calls his pen a weapon forged in darkness. In this song, it seems like he's telling himself as well as the listeners that you should just cherish that. You must remember that the negative thoughts don't control you. You control your mind. Find a way to turn things around and use it to your benefit. Towards the end of the song, we have this section, lean with it, rock with it, when are you gonna stop with it? Lyrics that mean nothing, we were gifted with thoughts. Is it time to move our feet to an introspective beat? It ain't the speakers that bump hearts, it's our hearts that make the beat. Now on Blurryface, I do recall Tyler making reference to popular songs that we hear on the radio. With Lane Boy, I think he said, don't trust the song that's flawless. And I think it's also on Lane Boy where he talks about radio hits being currency in the music industry. Now this seems to preface that thought. Lean with it, rock with it. That was a pretty big song, I'm assuming, around when this album came out. And Tyler's critiquing the lyrics to that song. Lyrics that mean nothing, we were gifted with thought. He's saying music with a message needs to be more present within the industry. And it seems like he's coming to terms with the importance of his writing. In Ode to Sleep, he's really having difficulty putting himself through all that he's putting himself through in writing music. He's experiencing difficulties with that type of freedom of expression. In Holding On To You, he's understanding the importance of that freedom of expression. And that's what I make of Holding On To You. Now let's get right into the next song, Migraine. With Holding On To You really building off of where we were at with Ode to Sleep, I'm really interested to see if Migraine's gonna take that even further.
from up, down, and sideways. Thank God it's Friday, cause Fridays will always be better than Sundays, cause Sundays are my suicide days. I don't know why they always seem so dismal. Thunderstorms, cloud, snow, and a slight drizzle. Whether it's the weather or the letters by my bed, me suspended in a defenseless test, being tested by a ruthless examiner that's represented best by my depressing thoughts. So do not have
Oh, it's good. I like that.
it will not let me sit back and sleep when I'm dead, and sometimes that's better than the migraine in my head. I am not as fine as I seem. Pardon me for yelling, I'm telling you, green gardens are not what's growing in my psyche. It's a different me. It's all about my head and how it is a dark that holds back contents and make Pandora's box contents with non-violent. Behind my eyelids are islands of pride with such a violent island full of tidal waves, suicidal crazed lions. They're trying to eat me, blood running down the chin. And I know that I can fight or I can let the lion in. I begin to assemble what weapons I can find, cause sometimes to stay alive you gotta kill your mind.
Sometimes to stay alive, you gotta kill your mind.
The game is not played alone, and I will say that we should take a moment and hold it and keep it frozen and know that life has a hopeful undertone. And I will say that we should take a day to break away from all the pain our brain has made. The game is not played alone. Know that life has a hopeful undertone. Am I the only one I know? Raging my waters behind my face and above my throat. We've made it this far, yeah. Made it this.
Wow, what an abrupt end to that song. Thought for sure he would end on far, but he just ends it. Made it this. That's it. The first thing that caught my attention in this song came really early. Waging my wars behind my face, above my throat. Going back to Ode to Sleep again, we talk about the start of a day when we put on our face a mask that portrays that we don't need grace. So here in Migraine, it really seems like Tyler lives behind this mask. He tries to really portray this positive person, but internally he's got a lot of conflict. And that conflict is detailed towards the middle of the first verse. He says, "Let it be said what the headache represents. It's me defending in suspense. It's me defended in a defenseless test, being tested by a ruthless examinant. That's represented best by my depressing thoughts. I do not have writer's block. My writer just hates the clock. It will not let me sleep. I guess I'll sleep when I'm dead." He seems to be referring to the fact that his best content seems to really come at the worst of moments. Whenever he's going through something difficult, that's when the thoughts will come. With the moment before sleep being representative of a time where all these questions come to mind, with that moment being the time with the most turmoil, we also have the moment where Tyler is the most creative. And again, that's why this pen is so dangerous to him. That's why it's a weapon. I could really imagine Tyler just writing content throughout the day, going about his life, and then at nighttime, just when he's about to sleep, everything just hits him and he starts questioning whether or not that content is actually good. And thus, that's when he gets the most insecure, and that's when he goes and rips up all those sheets of paper he just wrote those lyrics on and starts writing something new. That's really what I felt was being represented in this song. In another interesting section of the song, he's saying, "Something you won't forget, it's all about my forehead, and how it's a door that holds back contents that make Pandora's box contents look non-violent. Behind my eyelids are islands of violence. My mind shipwrecked. This is the only land my mind could find." So here we have a metaphor of Tyler sailing through life, and the boat that he's using to sail on is his mind. Once his mind gets shipwrecked, he needs to find a new direction, and the new place that represents his mind is a place of violence. This place of violence really is just this representation of how bad things are, and that face that he puts on hides all of this from the public eye. So Migraine really seems to be bringing that conflict to the forefront of the conversation. And then we have this bridge where he says, "And I will say that we should take a day to break away from all the pain that our brain has made. The game is not played alone, and I will say we should take a moment and hold it and keep it frozen and know that life has a hopeful undertone." The most interesting thing here to me is the fact that he's saying the game is not played alone. This face you put on in the morning, this is meant to conceal your identity. Not literally, but in the sense that whatever is happening in your life, you don't want to just put it all out there. You don't want people to see the negative. You don't want people to see what you're going through. And that's what's causing this migraine. You're starting to lose your sense of identity because on one side you're trying to portray something and on the other you're just going through a lot. And forcing yourself to deal with all of these dark thoughts on your own, it really gives the shadows that Tyler's referring to more power. Shadows being those dark thoughts, those insecurities. So once you realize that there is this hopeful undertone to life, you need to freeze it and keep it, and remember that the reason you were able to even identify this hopeful undertone was because you took a moment to look outside of yourself. So when he gets to the end where he's saying, shadows will scream that I'm alone, but I know that we've made it this far, kid, he's coming to this realization that yes, the dark thoughts are really trying to tell me that I'm alone in my problems, but despite these dark thoughts, I have made it this far. And with him putting kid in there, it feels like he's not alone. He's talking to somebody, he's sharing. So we have this moment of hope, but then at the very end, we have this abrupt end to the song. Made it this far, made it this, and that's how it ends. So with that cliffhanger of an ending, I'm interested to see what House of Gold has in store for us.
She asked me, son, when I grow old, will you buy me a house of gold? And when your father turns to stone, will you take care of me? I will make you queen of everything you
Wow,
see.
those high notes, he hits them so well.
We up and left this town and turned our future upside down. We'll make pretend that you and me lived ever after happily. Will you buy me a house of gold? And when your father turns to stone, will you take care of me? Queen of everything you see, I'll put you on the map, I'll cure you of disease.
I'd be curious to see how he sings this live.
And since we know that dreams are dead and life turns bland,
It's be really cool to hear live.
You on the map, I'll cure you of disease.
Alright, so that was House of Gold. Verse 1, he says, she asked me, son, when I grow old, will you buy me a house of gold? And when your father turns to stone, will you take care of me? So assuming me is Tyler, so this is from Tyler's perspective, he's saying that his mother is asking him, when she gets old and she's alone, will he take care of her? Will he be able to secure her a life that she enjoys living? And his response to that is he's going to put her at the top of his list of priorities, and he's going to keep her as healthy as he possibly can. I'll put you on the map. I see that as he plans on being successful, and he plans on making it known to the world that she was a huge reason for his success. And as we move further in the song, we seem to have his plan unfold before us. He's saying, suppose we leave town and things don't work out for us. We'll pretend that you and me lived happy. So, this goes back again to this face that you put on every day. He's saying, even if things don't work out, we'll pretend like they worked out. Then we move further, and life turns plans up on their head. I will plan to be a bum, so I just might become someone. It seems like he's getting to this idea that one of the largest struggles he has are his own expectations, because he sets this expectation and then his thoughts just come and push those expectations down. It's a source of conflict. So he's saying, I'm just going to put my expectations really low so I could just shoot right above them, or at least that's what he hopes would happen. So the way I see the song is he's still got that negativity in him, but he's finding a way to be positive. And he's finding a way to be positive because of the responsibility he may one day have. He's already having difficulty dealing with responsibility, but now he's going to be responsible for somebody else. Or at least that's the scenario he's envisioning because of his mother's question. So I see House of Gold as this conceptual song where he's framing the negativity in a different way. He's seeing importance in his responsibility. He's realizing that he needs to do something to make sure people around him are okay. He realizes he needs to find a way to cope with his mind to ensure the well-being of his loved ones. So let's get right into this next song, Car Radio. Now, as I've mentioned, I've heard Car Radio before, fantastic song, but even though I listen to it, I do need to listen to it here in this album reaction to really keep the flow of this album going. So let's get right into it, Car Radio.
I ponder of something great. My lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's dire, my time today. Sometimes quiet is violent. I find it hard to hide it. My pride is no longer inside. It's on my sleeve. Hate this car that I'm driving. There's no hiding for me. I'm forced to deal with what I feel. There is no distraction to mask what is real. I can pull the steering wheel. Now I just sit in silence.
I like how visual he gets with his lyrics. I could pull this steering wheel, you could really feel the frustration just behind the lyrics. You could really see what he's thinking of. Really like that. Oh, this music's beautiful.
I ponder of something terrifying, cause this time there's no sound to hide behind. I find over the course of our human existence, one thing consists of consistence, and it's that we're all battling fear. Oh dear, I don't know if we know why we're here. Oh my, too deep, please stop thinking. I liked it better when my car had sound. Peace will win, and fear will lose. It is faith, and there's sleep. We need to pick one, please, because faith is to be awake, and to be awake for us to think, and for us to think is to be alive. And I will try with every rhyme to come across like I am dying to let you know you need to try to think. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace.
That was so powerful. I really dig his screaming. It always feels so fitting.
I ponder of something great. My lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's dire, my time today. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought. Cause somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence.
Alright, so there we have it, Car Radio. I've got to say, listening to this song in an album reaction, really listening to the album from the beginning, it's given me a slightly different perspective on the song. Towards the end where you have that screaming section, where he says, and now I just sit. When I heard the song on its own, I thought that that would be the end of the song, and I never really quite understood why we go back to the I ponder of something great, my lungs will fill and then deflate. I never understood why we went back into that section and then ended the song that way. And now the way I see it, with all the things that we've talked about in this album thus far, it seems to be about this cycle again. You work your way through the day and you reach this point of the nighttime where things just get really heavy. Eventually you manage to fall asleep and then the day starts again. At the very beginning of the day, as he mentioned in Ode To Sleep, you think you've defeated those demons that you dealt with last night, but those voices come back to you as the day progresses. So that scream towards the end of the song, I see that as this point right before sleep where he's just screaming at these demons, and then the end of the song is just a new day. But to start off from the beginning of the song, it starts with, I ponder of something great, my lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire, I know it's dire, my time today. So he's saying that his time on this planet is important, and in his imagination, he's going to use that time to really come up with something great. But he has these thoughts that get in the way of that, and that's when we get to this idea of the car radio. So the car is this vehicle that's getting Tyler through life. It's something we talk about in Blurryface a bit later on in the future. But yeah, he's on this ride through life. A car radio is something that you could use to distract yourself. There's songs playing, it's keeping you occupied. Without a radio, you have no sound, and going back to that idea of the idle mind is the devil's playground, if you don't keep your mind active, those thoughts start coming in. And that's what he says, I just sit in silence. Sometimes quiet is violent. And I think here he's really contrasting his idea of quiet versus what I would say the public opinion is when, You think of quiet, you think of peace. You know, you go to a library, you think of a peaceful place. But here, where he's thinking of quietness, he's thinking of a space where his mind is just being filled with these thoughts, and these thoughts just have free reign over his brain. And then we get to, my pride is no longer inside, it's on my sleeve, my skin will scream, reminding me of who I killed inside my dream. I hate this car that I'm driving, there's no hiding from me. I'm forced to deal with what I feel. There's no distraction to mask what is real. The mask seems to be another important theme in this album. The mask is what he hides behind, it's what he's portraying to the world. But he's gotten to a point where he can't hide no more. He's got no distractions that's allowing him to put on that mask. His emotions are on his sleeve for the world to see. He's also remembering what he was talking about in Migraine, about not being alone. One thing consists of consistence, and it's that we're all battling fear. Oh dear, I don't know if we know why we're here. Oh my, too deep, please stop thinking. Now the way he words this and the way he delivers those lyrics, it really does a great job of highlighting a shocking question, you know, because he's going back to this idea that he talked about in Migraine about not being alone, but he's also realizing that we're all going through these struggles. We all have fear. And then he goes into these existential questions, and that's when things can get really dark because there's no real answer to why we're here. It's a very open-ended question with subjective answers. There's no one answer that's really applicable to everyone. The fear of never having an answer to that question, something that seems so fundamental, that can be really terrifying for somebody who's having conflicting thoughts. So he's going back to this idea of, oh my goodness, I need the radio on, I can't be thinking this. So Tyler does a really great job of depicting this conversation that's going on in his mind. And now the next song is Semi-Automatic, and I find that to be a really interesting choice of title just coming off of Car Radio. In this album thus far, he's talked about the problems he's had with making decisions, with having responsibilities. In Car Radio, he's talked about hating this car. Maybe now he's going to be opting for a car that is not automatic, one where he'll have to think more about the actions he takes in life. If the car is representative of how he's getting through life, perhaps an automatic car is giving him too much time to think. The car is doing the work for him in terms of shifting gears. So maybe having him have the option of shifting gears is going to be a distraction where he has to think about how he's driving. Perhaps that's going to be the topic for Semi-Automatic. Hope leaves a lot. Alright, so there we have it, Semi-Automatic. It starts off with night falls, with gravity, the earth turns from sanity, taking my only friend I know, he leaves a lot, his name is Hope. So this point that Ode to Sleep really introduced in this album where, you know, the nighttime is really this time where the negative thoughts really start surrounding you and you start feeling a little bit hopeless, that idea is being brought back right here again. What's interesting about this song is in Car Radio, you know, we kind of distance ourselves a little bit from that idea and we were talking more about distractions no longer being present, and because of those distractions no longer being present, Tyler's having difficulties distancing himself from these thoughts throughout the day even. On this song, he's saying, I'm never what I like, I'm double-sided. So he's created this duality. He's got two different characters going on, and one doesn't like the other, so he's never content. Verse 2, he builds upon the idea of these two different characters. The horrors of the night melt away under the warm glow of survival of the day. Then we move on, my shadow grows taller along with my fears. Now when I hear this, I'm thinking the shadow is this separate being. It's pretty much who ends up being Blurryface in the future. And he sees that he has two separate personalities, one that comes out during the day, one that comes out at night. And the way I see semi-automatic, him calling himself semi-automatic, his life is semi-dictated by his actions, and then his shadow is really controlling the other aspects of his life. And that's what I make of this song, Semi-Automatic. Now I will have to take a brief break right now just because my camera battery's about to die. Alright, I'm back, you guys. Let's get right back into this. Song number 7 off of Vessel, Screen. Got some piano here. I find this album's had a lot of upbeat music.
I do not know why I would go in front of you and hide my soul, 'cause you're the only one who knows it, and I will hide behind my pride. Don't know why I think I could lie, 'cause there's a screen on my chest. I'm standing in front of you, oh, I'm standing in front of you. I'm trying to be so cool, everything together, trying to be so cool. My flow's not great, okay. I conversate with people who know if I flow on a song, I'll get no radio play. While you're doing fine, there's some people and I who have a really tough time getting through this life, so excuse us while we sing to the sky. Oh. 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 We're broken, we're broken, we're broken, we're broken people. We're broken people. We're broken, we're broken, we're broken, we're broken people. We're broken people. I'm standing in front of you, I'm trying to be so cool, everything together, trying to be so cool.
Alright, so there we have it, Screen. At first when I was hearing this, I was thinking that Tyler was conversating with God in a way, especially when you take those two first songs off of this album into account, Ode to Sleep and Holding On To You. In this song, he's saying, I do not know why I would go in front of you and hide my soul because you're the only one who knows it. So I'm thinking that the only person besides himself, and you know what, even maybe himself, he doesn't know exactly what he's going through all the time, because ultimately he's really trying to figure himself out. So the only one who would really know what he's going through, I would imagine, is the person he's confiding to spiritually. And then we have reference to the title of the song, I will hide behind my pride, I don't know why I think I can lie, because there's a screen on my chest. So one of the themes in Vessel has been to conceal pain and whatever suffering you're going through. Whatever emotions you're dealing with, you put a mask on and you hide all of that. Now with him saying there's a screen on his chest, it kind of seems like he's going back to what he said in Semi-Automatic and Car Radio, where he's having difficulties hiding his struggles. It seems like here he's saying, as much as I try, I could hide my face, but everything is right here. You could see everything I'm going through. There's a screen on my chest. Then with verse 2, I kind of feel like there's another perspective that could be taken here. He says, my flow's not great, okay? I conversate with people who know if I flow on a song, I'll get no radio play. While you're doing fine, there's some people and I who have a really tough time getting through this life. So excuse us while we sing to the sky. So on one hand, I see this as Tyler venting to this divine being, saying, you know, you're up there doing fine and all, but some of us are having a really hard time getting through life. And I really like how we've built up to this point in the album. You know, we started this where it really seems like Tyler feels alone. Now we've come to this point, especially since Migraine, I think, where he really set it up for you to understand that you're not alone. So here's taking all those people that are going through things and putting them in this category with him and saying, you know, some of us are having a really hard time here getting through life. Excuse us while we sing to you. But in another sense, I also see this as Tyler just talking about the doubters. Or maybe not necessarily the doubters, but more so the people who complain about people who are going through things. When he's saying, while you're doing fine, there's some people and I who have a really tough time getting through this life, it almost seems like he's having this conversation with somebody who's seeing everything that Tyler's going through. And perhaps the screen is now more of a sarcastic screen. He's saying that this person is making up their own interpretation of what he's going through, and that person is making that interpretation out to be reality. By the time we get to this end of verse 2, he's really just saying, you know what, you think you understand me, you don't. I'm going through some things, and I know a lot of people who are in the same boat as me, so excuse me while we sing to the sky. And that's when this chorus kind of takes a different look for me. I'm standing in front of you, I'm trying to be so cool, everything together, trying to be so cool. This person that Tyler's speaking to, it really seems like that person has everything figured out. So he's doing everything in his power to, you know, appear cool. So I'm seeing this song in two different perspectives. Either one seems quite powerful. I like them both. So let's get right into the next song. Song number 8, The Run and Go.
Take them on my own. Oh, I'm not the one you know. I have killed a man and all I know.
This is at least the second time he's mentioned killing.
I'm on the run and go.
Last time I think he mentioned it being in his dream though.
Give you all my demons. You'll have to watch me struggle from several rooms away. I am up against the wall. I hear them coming down the hall. I have killed a man and all I know is I am on the run and go. Don't wanna call you in the nighttime. Wanna give you all my demons. You'll have to watch me struggle. In one-way conversation.
I find him so versatile, especially when he does things like this.
Don't wanna hand you all my trouble. Don't wanna give you all my demons. You'll have to watch me struggle from several rooms away. Tonight, I need you to stay. Tonight, I need you to stay.
So that was Run and Go. He's talking about having killed a man and he's on the run and go. Being on the run basically means you're trying to escape from something, you're trying to hide something. Tyler's talked a lot about going through rough times and doing your best to keep it all in, you know, putting on a brave face and just hiding everything. Before that run and go line, he's saying, I have killed a man and all I know. Perhaps that's what he's trying to escape. He's killed and he's trying to, you know, overcome that guilt. In Car Radio, he says, my pride is no longer inside, it's on my sleeve, my skin will scream, reminding me of who I killed inside my dream. So whatever it is he's killing, I'm guessing it's a thought of some kind. He's experiencing guilt for killing that thought. And the main reason I'm thinking it's a thought at this point is he starts the verse by saying, I can't take them on my own. Pa, I'm not the one you know, you know. So the thoughts that he's referring to seem to be these inner demons. And once again, he's talking to this divine presence, or at least that's what it seems like at this point. And he's telling him that, you know, I'm praying and I'm confiding everything in you and you're believing in me, but I'm telling you now, I can't deal with all of this. So when we go in the chorus and he's saying, don't want to call you in the nighttime, don't want to give you all my pieces, don't want to hand you all my troubles, don't want to give you all my demons. I see this as him referencing what he's talked about earlier in the album. I believe it came on Holding On To You, where he talks about these negative thoughts really coming out at night, and when things get bad, that's when we start asking for help. I feel like Tyler at this point is saying, I don't want to ask for help just when I'm in trouble. But with the song ending on, but tonight I'll need you to stay, it seems like he's saying, I don't want your help per se, but please do keep an eye on me because things aren't looking great. So that's really how I see Run and Go. It's the second song in a row where he seems to be having a conversation. In this song, it does seem like the conversation definitely is with God. With Screen, it seemed to be a little bit more up for interpretation. In this one, it seems a little bit more explicit. But let's get right into the next song. Song number 9, Fake You Out. Alright, so there we have it. Fake You Out. Going into this, I wasn't sure what the title Fake You Out was going to signify. After listening to this song, you fit that into the chorus where he's saying, and I'll fall down, and I'll break down, and I'll fake you out. He'll do his best to make it appear like he's not really going through anything, everything is fine, but internally he's dealing with a lot. And that's something that he's mentioned time and time again throughout this album. But to break down the song a little more, in the intro he's saying, I want to drive away in the night, lights call my name. The car has been another symbol in this album, and him being inside a car, it's really his journey through life. You go back to Car Radio, he's talking about distractions, and without the car radio, he has to deal with all the noise coming in. In this song, he's saying, I'm so afraid of what you have to say because I'm quiet now, and silence gives you space. So when you put all that together, it seems like he's talking about the demons once again. Him not having anything going on, not having any distractions, it really brings out the worst in him, and he's afraid of that. In the chorus, he's saying, I'll never be what you see inside. You say I'm not alone, but I'm petrified. You say that you are close, the closest star, you feel just twice as far. He talks about singing to the sky in Screen, and that seems to be his way of coping with all the stress, you know? You sing to the sky, you sing to the stars, and that helps you realize you're not alone. But now that his thoughts are getting to him again, while his conversations with God may have helped him feel less alone, now he's starting to feel more distant again. Then we go into this rap section, which really goes deep. He's saying that he's put his mind through a lot because of how his mind has been making him feel, essentially. And he knows that he's not alone in dealing with this. He knows there are a lot of people out there who are also dealing with it, some of which who feel like they have even less control over their mind. And he alludes to the mind as a prisoner cell here. That really gives you perspective on how bad it gets, how bad he feels trapped within these thoughts. And he ends that section really nicely where he's conversing with anybody who is going through something similar, saying, and if you're one of them, then you're one of me. And you would do almost anything just to feel free. Before you walk away, there's one more thing I want to say. Our brains are sick, but that's okay. So he's acknowledging that things aren't going great, and he's also acknowledging that it's very difficult to get out of that space. In Screen, one of the perspectives I saw that song in is you're having this conversation with somebody who's not necessarily in the same place. You have one person who's feeling really down, feeling trapped within their mind, and you have somebody who's more on the positive end, and that person is kind of giving you suggestions, and those suggestions just aren't resonating with you because you're in two different places, and this person doesn't necessarily understand what you're going through or what you've gone through. So as much as they're trying to help, it's not really getting through to you, and that person is probably just trying to push even harder to make sure the message gets to you. Here Tyler is talking from the perspective of two people going through similar things, and he's saying whatever it is you're going through, don't feel bad for going through it. Understand it's really difficult, but understand that you're not alone. If you're one of them, then you're one of me. That's a really beautiful message there. And that's I'll Fake You Out. Now let's get into song number 10, Guns for Hands. That's an unexpected switch up right there. There we have it. Guns for Hands. This is some real powerful music right here. He starts verse 1 with, I know what you think in the morning when the sun shines on the ground and shows you what you have done. It shows where your mind has gone, and you swear to your parents that it will never happen again. So, you know, after going through everything you've gone through throughout the night, after doing your best to cope with your mind, you know, he's talked about where the mind can go at nighttime when the distractions start going away. Now he's talking about the things you may do to yourself because of those thoughts. And you may not realize it as you're going through it, but then when the sun comes up and, you know, it's a new day and perhaps you have a new mindset, you know, it's the start of the day, so it's the new beginning. You realize what you've done, and you may feel like you have to answer for that. And things could get pretty difficult in that sense. But then verse 2 comes up, and I really like that he does this. He says, let's take this a second at a time. He's breaking it down, because anytime you do something and you feel like you have to answer for it, your mind could race, you know, you're worried. So let's take this a second at a time. He's making you feel once again that you're not alone. He's telling you to breathe with the beat. It feels like hope's out the window. Well, that's where we'll go. We're gonna go get hope. You know, when we say hope's out the window, it means that we no longer have hope. He's saying, you know what, it feels like we no longer have hope, but let's go chase it. And while we're at it, let's all go join hands, because And these are really beautiful lyrics because, you know, when you have this metaphor of being inside the house, he's mentioned this in some songs as well. You know, staying inside. It's also a reference to being isolated. So if you're like him, you're also thinking, let's stay inside. He's saying, well, no, let's forget about that. All of us who are inside, let's go out of the window and let's all join hands. Because if you don't, if you stay inside, if you just allow yourself to keep thinking the things you're thinking, you're gonna keep going through this alone and you may never understand. Understand what? Well, you all have guns for hands. You never put the safety on. So here I take this as we all suffer from the possibility of going through difficult times. And in times like those, we may think of things that we never thought possible. Despite how dark the mind can get, you can learn to cope with it. Despite how dangerous you may seem to yourself, there is a way to gain control over yourself. Because a gun is dangerous, but once the safety is on, it's a lot safer. And then he goes into this rap section and he ends it with, the solution is, I see a whole room of these mutant kids fused at the wrist. I simply tell them that they should shoot at this, simply suggest my chest and this confused music. It's obviously best for them to turn their guns to a fist. So I see this again as he sees all of these individuals going through something very difficult. And sometimes the solution seems to be, you know, just get more positive. That's how I interpret that last line. Obviously, it's best for them to turn their guns into fists. But how are they going to get to that point? And that's where the other lines come in. I simply tell them they should shoot at this. I simply suggest my chest and this confused music. The way Tyler deals with his mind is to write. And he hopes this music will reach and connect with individuals who are going through similar things. You know, you may have guns for hands right now, but you could shoot at this. You could turn to this music and understand that you're not alone. There's a way through this, and it's really through introspection. And, you know, that's what this music is going to allow you to do. It's going to allow you to journey through Tyler's music, but it's also going to allow you to relate to him and understand that whatever you're going through, you're not alone. And this will help you turn that gun into a fist. So that's what I think of Guns for Hands. Very powerful song. We really see Tyler taking this conversation deeper and deeper. It starts with Ode to Sleep, where he's talking about the negative thoughts and how bad they could get. He's progressively throughout the album taken it a step further. Now here he's really talking to anybody who's in the same boat. And he's giving insight as to what you could do if you're in that boat. Now, next song on the album is Trees. Let's get right into it.
I know where you stand, silent in the trees, and that's where I am, silent in the trees. Why won't you speak where I happen to be? I want to know you, I want to see, I want to say. I know where you stand, silent in the tree, and that's where I am, silent in the tree. Feel your breath, I can feel my head. I want to know you.
Man, I have chills right now. Whew. The song is so beautiful. Alright, so that was Trees. Not a lot is said in this song, But that feels fitting at this point. You know, Guns for Hands was a very powerful song. I wasn't sure what they were going to come with next on the album, and when I heard this song, it just made so much sense to have this here. So basically the verse is, I know where you stand, silent in the trees, and that's where I am, silent in the trees. Why won't you speak where I happen to be, silent in the trees? Standing cowardly, I could feel you breathe. I can feel my death. I want to know you. I want to see. I want to say hello. You know, earlier in this album reaction, I can't remember exactly which song it is that made me think this, but you know, there's this idea of silence, and silence in one sense could represent calmness, and it's this time of introspection where you could really look within yourself. And here, that's what I'm feeling in this song. He's trying to get in tune with nature, but we also know silence to be, in this album, something destructive, because with silence, without the distractions, your mind just races. And I feel like here, he's not waiting for nighttime to come around. He's taking a walk in the forest where the distractions just aren't there. In one sense, that could be a calming thing, because taking a walk through nature, it really puts things into perspective for some. But here he's confronting his fears. He's putting himself in a situation where he is mostly alone, if you want to see yourself that way, because some, you know, when you take that walk through nature, you realize you're never really alone. You're amongst so many different living organisms. But I feel like here, the symbolism is he's alone, and those thoughts that he's so afraid of that come at night, well, he's dealing with them in the day. He's not running away at this point. And he really wants to get to know these thoughts a little better. And that's why he's here. So despite the fact that there's less lyrics here, the lyrics that are said, I feel, are very powerful. This is a very significant song in the album for me. It almost feels like this should have been the last song on the album. So with this being the before last song, very interested to see where they go with Truce. Let's get right into it. Last song off of Vessel, Truce.
Now the night is coming to an end. The sun will rise and we will try again. Stay alive for me. You will die, but now your life is free. Take pride in what is sure to die.
Wow.
I will fear the night again.
He really has this ability to hit you right in the core. That's because it's so real. You could feel that he's passionate about this, and
Oh, I'm not
I'm just gonna keep quiet for a second here.
only friend. Stay alive for me. Die right what is sure to.
I wasn't sure where he could have gone after Trees. This makes a lot of sense. I'm impressed. Alright, so yeah. I talked a little bit in that song. I kind of wanted to avoid that and just keep my thoughts to the end, but yeah, this song just really hits you right in the core. Like I said, after hearing Trees, I wasn't sure where he could have gone with the album. You know, there's one more song on the album after Trees. What could he possibly do? And they surprised me again. This is the perfect way to end the album. After confronting his fears in Trees, or at least that's the way I perceived it, here we really feel like the journey has come full circle. With Ode to Sleep, I saw this cycle as being the day. You know, you start the day with a little bit more peace, and then as you progress through the day, you know, you get active. There are the general stresses of life, but then you come to the end of the day, and that's when everything really catches up to you. That's where all these thoughts really start to haunt you. And he makes reference to that in this song. In verse 2, he says, I will fear the night again. He understands that the night could get really dark and really scary, but there is a new day that is awaiting. You know, the sun will rise again. You will have another chance. So take pride in the fact that you have that opportunity. And he's also saying, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the fact that I know that I have the opportunity to have another day, This doesn't mean that I won't be fearing the night again. There will always be this struggle where, you know, you have the light and the darkness and you will sway between them. Some days may be better than others, some days may be worse than others. But just understand that regardless of what end you're on, you're here, you're not alone. And that's really how I see this song. And with it being called Truce, you know, a truce is pretty much a shaking of hands, if you will. He's really accepting the good with the bad. And that's just a beautiful way to end this album when you think of all the things that's been said on it. We've had a few themes here, you know, with the car and the journey through life and the cycle of a day and how bad the thoughts can get at nighttime, the masks we put on to hide everything we've gone through and, you know, make ourselves appear more positive, if you will. And the fact that sometimes you'll feel alone because you have to put on this facade just to feel like you're a part of something. There's just a lot that's being said in this album, and it's very deep, it's very powerful. He does a great job of conveying that message in multiple different ways. You know, the whole cycle of day thing has really been present throughout the majority of the songs here, and he finds a different way to state it to make sure it really gets to you. And the same thing goes for the facade that you put up to hide your emotions. I really respect how they're able to stay on these topics and find another angle to sing them from. It's very impressive, it's very powerful. This will reach out to a lot of people, whether that's people going through the types of things that he's talking about, or it's people who maybe don't understand. They could read into this message and maybe get a better perspective at the other side. And I really feel like that's what Tyler's going for with the lyrics. He's got these messages that are deeply ingrained in the music. You know, they made sure to go for this upbeat music. Really throughout the album you have upbeat music, but there's this really deep message. The upbeat music will compel you to listen, if you will. You know, right off the bat, before even hearing a word, you're going to be interested in listening to the song. And maybe you'll listen to a verse and it'll fly over your head. But the more you listen, the more you start realizing there's this deep message to the music. And I really think that's what they were going for. So they did a really good job on that. I really enjoyed this album. And yeah, that's what I think. Another great album under the 21 Pilots name. When I heard Blurryface, I was impressed by the versatility the band had with sounds. It's something I heard a bit with the trench sounds. Blurryface really showed me front to back. They're able to do this on every song in an album, and it's really impressive. And with this album, they transition a little bit less with sounds. It seems to be consistent with that upbeat tempo and the powerful lyrics. Blurryface also had very powerful lyrics, but this one seems to be more focused on a specific style where you have upbeat music and powerful lyrics. And with Blurryface, we had a bit of a conflict with Blurryface and Tyler. In Vessel, you could really see where Blurryface comes in, if you will. You know, this person in the trees, you really feel like that's Blurryface. It's just that there wasn't a name attributed to that shadow yet. Having heard Blurryface prior to this album, Vessel, it's really fun to go back and see where this stemmed from. So I had a lot of fun with this album reaction. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. If you enjoyed it, please leave a thumbs up. I always appreciate the support, and I will see you all next time. Have a great day, y'all.